system, titling Ethical and Social Issues in Information System. First, I would like to cover on the learning objective in this very last chapter of the syllabus this semester. So we'll be discussing what are the ethical, social, and political issues in relation to using, applying any information system in our daily life, whether it is for working purposes, or for entertainment, or for business. What are the specific or existing principle for conduct to be used in ethically using information system? What do the contemporary information system technology and the internet that could pose problem or challenges in protecting individual privacy of the user, and also intellectual property at large, and how have information system affected our daily life in terms of socialization, health, and also lifestyle. This chapter basically discussing how IT in relation to ethics of using IT system. So this kind of scenery, I think, quite familiar nowadays in the campus, in which people are mostly preoccupied with using or seeing the smartphone while walking or while waiting for bus. So in almost every aspect, we are dependent upon our IT system in the name of smartphone nowadays. Okay, I would like to touch also some general issue regarding IT, intellectual property, and commercial issues. So in recent years, we have been bogged down with the current legal issue on information technology access, export, and it involves international trade too. So actually, this issue is quite general in terms of IT implication of business. For example, back in 2018, soon after President Trump became the United States president, so he could somehow observe that China will be the main trade for US dominance in economy and commerce. So based on their perception, that they think that China must be somehow be managed or being somehow controlled in their technology dominance. So this turned out to be that the Department of Commerce of the United States imposed ban towards Huawei business operation. Okay, and the question is, why only Huawei, not Samsung, and not other Japanese smartphone maker like Sony? So the question is, why only Huawei? So they claim that Huawei is a threat to national security of the US. And they claim that Huawei advance in production and implementation of 5G technology control will somehow influence the US, which are slightly lagging in terms of 5G technology control and its standard. So they claim that China are creating much deficit of the United States business. And these are all about market dominance, in which the new coming business in the market like Huawei, they are so strong in the market and also in many IT appliances. So US is trying to put some pressure in order to mitigate or slightly lessen down the dominance of Chinese companies and Chinese product. So as a result, US commerce through Google, so they ban the use of Google apps on Huawei smartphone. What do you think the implication of this on legal issue on IT and ethics? So when you see your competitor is getting stronger and much better in producing high-tech product, so you start using some other means of trade in order to push down the pressure. So this results of the trade imbalance. In other words, US start imposing um tariff on China export to United States, and it involved a huge sum amount to the billions level, and as a result, Chinese government also imposed another tariff set for American export to the United States, be it in the Boeing airplane or be on like a agricultural product like wheat and so on. So this kind of commercial tussle or business tariff is very counterproductive as far as technological advancement is concerned. So are all these claims real? All these claims for sure has legal basis or not? So it is a subject of discussion on many international settings. However, of recent times, it seems that even the U.S. official are admitting that Huawei, Chinese company, are beginning to produce high quality product. So that is a part of their concern. So in recent times and a news report, it says that ultimately US company will collaborate with 5G technology company from China like Huawei in order to develop a standard international platform for IT communication and also for telecommunication protocols. So these are quite a relevant legal issue pertaining to ethics and using IT in terms of network, in terms of communication, so that a student and us, we have to realize this current legal and ethical issue on IT usage. Well, this ethics issue in using information system has been for many decades been debated. It is ethics about the principle of right and wrong, that the individuals acting as free users to make choices to get their behavior over the internet, so over the information technology network. So these are the main issues being discussed in this chapter. So it was back perhaps almost 2 decades ago. So there was IT scam that with the name of Madoff Ponzi scheme. Madoff is a Wall Street traders that trade shares and propose good return for investment for many users or many customers. So Madoff Ponzi scheme use IT system in order to promote their scheme, and many users have been using this scheme in order to expect for good return for their investment. So this scheme uses IT system, IT network, so IT operation, and Madoff Ponzi scheme promise as much as 32% return of investment for their customers. So I think 32% return on investment is very high. So this could be quite too good to be true. Normally, investment return at the level of 10 to 15% is considered good some amount of return already. So this is 3 times than that. So it proved that by the end of the scheme that this scheme is considered Ponzi scheme, or it is get rich scheme. So since it uses IT system, so is it ethically proper or ethically correct to use information system to cheat people as far as investment is concerned? So this is another aspect of information system and ethic. Should you use technology and tool to cheat people on their investment scheme? So this is another unethical use of information system as a clear example. So IT and ethical and social issues is actually interrelated. It is a model for thinking about this relation between these three parameter, like ethical, social, and political issue on the use of information technology application. It is said that all these ethical, social, and political issues is like a three combination, like a society in relation to as come as pond. So when you see it is a pond like a swimming pool, that when you throw a rock into the swimming pool, and the pond will create ripples or waves, and that is the depiction of instability of IT system in which when somebody use it unethically. So it involves many layers of society. For example, the users, the technology provider, the society at large, the cultural aspect of it. So it involves some changes in our social life as its ripple effects. So I give you one example, a typical usage of IT system in the financial sector, for example. So have you heard of Bitcoin and Ethereum? It is a digital money so system in which quite many developed countries have been using it. Among the pioneer is in Japan, US and Europe, Singapore. So this has been quite famous in terms of its usage, which is digital money. One system is known as Bitcoin. Okay, back in the few years ago, like three years ago, one Bitcoin equals to almost 80,000 ringgit in Malaysia. So whether you use it ethically or unethically, due to its convenience and due to its simplicity, you may not have to bring a lot of money or cash in when you travel overseas to buy things. So this digital money, you can purchase goods in Japan just by paying this about 80,000 ringgit Malaysia for one Bitcoin, and you can purchase things and shopping around the world. However, due to its technological base and customer base, it could be unethically correct when the value is fluctuating very large. For example, nowadays, one Bitcoin worth about 40,000. But 3 years ago, one Bitcoin equals to almost 80,000. So over the years, the value of Bitcoin fluctuate very much. Nowadays, it has only half of the value when it was back in 2017. So is it ethical in terms of IT and its users in our daily life? So it's open for debate. So society is as come as a pond like this. So we use IT system for many usages, like for individual use or society use. So it is a matter of whether you have that accountability to use the IT system. What are your rights in using an information system? And what kind of quality system quality that you have in your network or in your IT gadget or in your IT equipment, and also involve the quality of life as far as policy and society is concerned, right? So is, for example, is downloading free music is ethical? So those are among the issues that very much interrelated between ethics, social and political issues when using information system. The textbook highlighted the five moral dimension of information age. So in what perspective that you can have a look on its moral perspective? First, the information right and its obligation. So the property rights and its obligation, the accountability aspect and control of IT information system, the system quality in terms of the technology, system quality, and the quality of life. So let's take a look on the individual five moral dimension of this information age. Okay, key technology trends that raise ethical issue. Since technology are improving very fast, and they are increasing the speed very fast. You have known that the speed of microprocessor doubling almost every 1.5 year. So on top of that, IT technology in terms of storage, the cost of storage is rapidly declining. So it is much cheaper nowadays to keep information in comparison to 10 or 15 years ago. So the networking advances and the internet in terms of transferring data, copying data, it become much faster and very much easier nowadays. So the other ethical and social issue relating to system is the advancement of data analytic as far as security is concerned. Security of some nation, for example, they process the data using data analytics software in profiling. They create a database to have the relation between individuals and its past record as far as crimes, as far as their behavior and so on. So these are part of the uh, national security priority for United States, for example. So mobile device can be used as tools for tracking location for individuals. So those are part of the ethical issue, whether IT system has been used responsibly or unethically. These are example for the United States Defense National Security Matter. They call it NORA technology. It stands for Non-Obvious Relationship Awareness. They create a very big database under FBI, CIA, and also NSA. So in order to have a monitoring system for individuals that are coming to the United States for observation or for some kind of security monitoring. So they create the watch list, or I would say kind of wanted individual list, and they keep the database of incident, arrest, or past record of, I would say, crimes that this watch list individual have been listed. So they can track also this individual watch list transaction as far as credit card is concerned, and as far as purchase and payment is concerned. They watch, also monitor telephone records, and of course the individual information of this watch list individual. So they are all merged into a single database, and the system will give alert to, well, for example, the FBI, police, or customs and immigration, as far as when this individual entered the United States. So his or her name will pop up from the system so that the immigration can have a close check, detail, I would say, checking on the individual. So this kind of system considered ethical as far as IT usage is concerned. So for certain nation is considered ethical, and for some other human freedom of expression, human freedom of traveling, it may not be ethical. So it depends on which perspective you are looking at from. So in basic perspective is that for ethical analysis, system of IT must be used responsibly. It must be used with accountability. There are liability in using IT system when we use it illegally, and there are system for due process in which you may find it uh, on legal perspective as breaching the law, and you are liable for legal case sue in the court. So basically, five-step ethical analysis is example like plagiarism, in which nowadays is quite easy to claim somebody else's work as your work, but due to plagiarism is basically the usage of other people's intellectual work, like writings, record, musics, and you claim it as your own. So in order not to be claimed as plagiarized, you have to declare where is the source of your reference of your work. If it involve second party or third party, you have to declare in your intellectual work. So these are a few perspectives of ethical analysis that you may need to consider when using other people's intellectual property. Ethics in information society, there are a few ethical principles that we must simply need to follow. So the first ethical principle, they call it a golden rule. Golden rule claims that do unto others as you will have them do unto you. In other words, don't do to others if you don't want others to do it to you. So that is the first golden rule. It means that if you don't want people to plagiarize your work in the first place, you don't have to plagiarize other people's work. So that is the golden rule, the basic first rule. The second ethical principle, they call it Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative principle. So Immanuel Kant is this. So basically, he stated that if an action is not right for everyone to take, it is not everyone. It's not right for everyone. So it means that nobody can take that action. Then other people also cannot repeat that same action. For example, if you are queuing to board the electric train like MRT or commuter in KL, so the right approach to do is by queuing. So if nobody is acceptable to cut the queue, it means that everyone is not right to cut the queue. So you have to follow the queue as everyone else. So that is an example. So the third ethical principle is Descartes' rule of change. This is picture of Descartes. Descartes claims that if an action cannot be taken repeatedly, it is not right to take at all, right? So if it is wrong to, for example, take other people's property, and it cannot surely be repeated, and ultimately it's not right to do it at all. So that is what Descartes claim. The fourth ethical principle is named as utilitarian principle. Utilitarian principle claim that take the action that achieve the higher and the greater value, right? So you have to do something which give higher or greater value instead of the lower and less value. So for example, if you are supposed to, for example, save for example, you have to uh, save people from danger. So you have to save the people which are most vulnerable. For example, the old people. So that has a higher value in terms of utilitarian principle. Okay, the fifth ethical principle is a risk aversion principle. It is to avoid risk. Principle that you need to take action to avoid bigger risk. All right. So it is claiming that take action that produce the least harm or the lowest potential cost. For example, if you have to save your hard drive uh, to save your work file, so you have to save the drive that is, of course, containing the biggest storage in comparison to the lowest storage. So you save much bigger hard drive capacity in comparison to the least storage capacity. The last but not least principle in the ethical IT perspective is ethical no free lunch. In this world, it seems that some of the aspect of our lives is free. For example, Facebook is free, Google is free. So technically, it is not free. If it is free, then how come Google and Facebook, the owner is one of the richest men in the world? Actually, it's not free. Somebody else are paying for advertisement in Google for their commercial product. So it seems like free, but in actual perspective, it is not free. Somebody else is paying for it for you to get the free service. That's why in the many professional work area, they have a professional code of conduct. For example, doctor, they have the medical professional code of conduct in which, for example, the confidential information of patient cannot be told to other people. Okay, and the priority is to save life first in comparison to other aspect of asset, right? So those are professional conducts. As such, not only doctor, lawyers, uh, professional manager, they have also professional conducts in order to conduct their work or follow the rules, guidelines, and regulation. So in the whole world, basically, uh, most professional work or most professional people, they have a code of conduct. Not only doctors, not only lawyers, it includes army, it includes IT professional like software engineer. So they have their own code of conduct in order to do their work. So in this modern world, we have the rights for accessing information freely. So that is the name by the name of privacy. Privacy means claims of individual to be left alone on their own, free from surveillance and interference from other individual or from other supervision by organization, and claim to be able to control information about you yourself as user of internet. So this privacy is the basic expectation for using the internet on privacy. And it is expected that by using information system ethically, we have to have a fair information practices in which your information is fairly being used by other people, and you are expected so. So no people are using or selling your information without your knowledge, without your acknowledgement, or without your permission. That is expected for information fair practice. However, that information could also be misused, right? So in Malaysia nowadays, we have this is what we call CTOS system. It is a ranking of, I would say, reliability of the individual to engage or to get financial support like loan to buy car or to buy house. In the olden days, previously, this CTOS system was a commercial body. So your information pertaining your loans and your security and your financial status is being kept by a private company. So Malaysian government found out that this is not a fair practice. So now they create this CTOS database and they park it under Bank Negara. So Bank Negara keep your ranking, the healthiness of your financial status by having this CTOS database. CTOS is index maximum 800, right? If you have a higher score around 7 to 800, you are classified as green. If you have like 600 or 500 level, you are considered as insecure in terms of financially. It means that you have a lot of debt, and if you are of course in the very weak financial status or bankrupt, so you have a of course lowest score as far as 300 or low scores. So this information seems like important for certain organization. For example, for banks to gauge your ability to pay back loan or to pay back debts. So when you apply loans to bank for example, to purchase a car, and normally that bank will check your standing at CITOS at Bank Negara. So that bank will have to pay for one individual record check about 26 ringgit 50 cent, and that bank will have your score level. So if your score is around 700, that might be still good, right? 500, maybe it is yellow alert, and definitely if red, it is considered uh, as almost bankrupt. So you won't be able to get loan if you have a lower score level, 3 or 400 at CITOS. So again, CITOS, is it ethical or not ethical? Because it affects people's ability to apply loan. So that is another issue. So if we don't have the system, what would happen? If we have the system, what would happen? Because all these based on information system that is being kept at Bank Negara as part of financial monitoring of individuals. So I think in the moral dimension of the information system, you can look at it in many perspectives. As far as security is concerned, for example, security of a nation or enforcement agency that part of their job to protect other people from crimes and criminals. So these are many perspectives of a moral dimension in information system. Okay. So now we come to a question that what are the challenges or problem on internet with respect to privacy? For example, you know what cookies is all about. Cookies is basically a small record of your browsing at the internet. So basically, server could detect you, could track your surf at internet. So that is in the name of cookies, right? So where else? Web beacon or bugs. Basically, this is normally embedded in email, in which when you open email with this web bugs, that email will be transferred to your computer memory and your hard drive. So it can create problems when you open such a bad email from marketing spammers. Spyware is basically monitoring your computer usage, right? In normally they spy for critical information like password or some key information related to financial and credit card numbers and so on. So these are considered spyware because they are spying for commercial information, that information with value. So Google service also engage in behavioral targeting so that they can identify your preference in surfing internet. What are your interests? What are your most preferred area to look information on the internet? So they could behaviorally target your preference. So how the cookies work? Basically, how the server and user engage with each other. For example, this is you as a user. You go to the internet, for example, Amazon.com. You try to find books on management information system, for example. So when you send a request to Amazon, the server at Amazon will detect what is your operating system of your computer, what kind of I would say browser, is it Explorer or Chrome, and somehow they might be able to identify your for example email address like Gmail and so on. So this is the first time access to the server at Amazon.com. Amazon server will send back a cookie. Cookie is a tiny text file of user identification that browse the server for website. And when the second time you come to Amazon server, basically this server already identify you, your perhaps IT protocol number, right, and identify you as a second visitor, or they have visited earlier. So as such, server will detect you, and they might be able to detect you as Jane Doe as individual name. So these are how the cookies identify a web visitor, and normally it is automatically done by software on the server. So is it ethically acceptable to track like this, or it depends? It depends on many perspectives. However, in the United States itself, so the government's rules and regulation allows business to record or keep transaction information on users, particularly for marketing purposes. So they allow. So in the US, perhaps it is more open, and they treat it as not is no issues, so it can be done. But perhaps in other countries, like in Japan, it might not be so. Like in China, so it might not be so. So it depends on countries and its rules and regulation on using IT. So, what are the solution for these challenges, as problem, ethics in using information system? There are a few suggested and existing solution. For example, on technical solution, your email that you send to your friend. So normally this email is not in the form of actual what you write when it is transferred over the internet. So it is encrypted. It is kind of being dispersed, the actual content, and later it's assembled back at the receiver. So this is the encryption purpose, in order for your actual email content not being able to be read in the whole document form by other people who are not supposed to receiving it at the other end. So you could use also anonymity tools when surfing internet in order not to be detected who you are. For example, by using incognito software. You could install also anti-spyware tool like firewalls into your computer, so that it is not easily breached by spyware software that could be sent through email, for example. You could set the technical solution as a in your browser, like Chrome. You could set your browsing mode as private, or you could enable a do not track option. And those are a few technical solution that user can use in order to protect their information right when using the information system over the internet. The moral dimension of information system on property rights, including intellectual property, IP, they call it. So intellectual property are quite diverse in terms of meaning. It could be in the form of trade secret, okay, for example, industrial production recipe or formula in order to produce product, like in the food sector, like in the chemical industry, they have many formulas in order to produce their product. Or it could be in the form of copyright, for example, electronic product, for example, like books, for example, like music. So those are IP category which is under copyright, and normally author are protected for 70 years on their final product that they created in the form of perhaps books or music and so on. And IP product could be considered under patent. Okay, when you invent something new, new product or new process, you could patent your product and process. And if you're successful patenting it, you are protected for almost 20 years, as far as it's your own exclusive monopoly of a certain invention or process or product, that you can keep it for 20 years on your name, on your own very individual name. So, what are the challenges to in these intellectual property rights? Basically, nowadays there are too many digital media instead of physical media. So, because it is digital, so it is very much easy to replicate it. It is easy to copy, and it is easy to distribute. Just distribute over the internet, and as such, it is considered easy to copy intellectual property media because of its in digital form. So these are part of the challenge to protect your property rights if it is in the digital media format. So the other aspect of moral dimension in using information system is accountability, liability, and control. So if it is a software product, so somehow software product sometimes it fails, so it is prone to hanging, it prone to crash. So in terms of accountability, liability and control, basically users who have purchased a product, they hardly can control in terms of how liable is the product, how good is the product, because normally software they tend to fail. Why software has the ability to fail? Because software is a digital product in which designer or developer cannot test 100% in comparison to physical product like computer, phones, or car. They can test it 100% because it is physical. Whereas in the software format, normally it is in digital format, so they could not test fully prior releasing the product. So inside the software, there could be certain kind of error in terms of programming, in terms of looping. So how is this error could be addressed in terms of reliability? So again, this is another challenge in system quality in terms of system error. So software does sometimes got crash, hang, or fail. So nobody could claim the producer as responsible because it runs on hardware, the processor, memory, so it runs on dependent upon others. So this is a very hard challenge on data quality and system error. So the moral dimension of information system affect also quality of our life in terms of equity, access, and boundaries. In the advanced world, in the nation with a good technological infrastructure, they could use internet easily. But how about people who are not fortunate, or nation which has lesser capability to access internet? So it creates a gap between the rich nation and also poor nation as far as establishing a more equal quality of life. So as such, it gives negative social consequences in the system for those that have a lesser capability to access internet or change information to transfer data and so on. Well, nowadays we are so dependent upon IT gadget as if we are walking with smartphone, reading our document data as if we are walking zombies. All right. So another moral dimension of information system is on crime on computer and its abused. All right. So it is known, like in marketing, they call it like a spam, in which you always receive in your email box or for unwanted or unwelcome email from marketing, from banks, from traveling agent, from so many sources. So that could also lead to abuse, right? Because this unsolicited email sent to your mailbox is actually not given permission. So, but it is there in your mailbox. So, is it ethical or not ethical by doing so? So, again, it depends on your each perspective. So too much using the information system also may lead to health risk. For example, your eyes get sore because too long looking at computer screen, that may create eye strain or headaches. It also contribute to techno stress, fatigue, being impatient, and physically it could create your hands or palm become unhealthy. They call it due to RSI, which is repetitive stress injury, because so long and so many time typing on the keyboard. So it may lead to CTS, carpal tunnel syndrome, in which at the joint between your palm and your hand there is a kind of ache due to repetitive job typing that you are doing it on the keyboard, for example. So these are some of the moral dimension of information system that exist in our daily life. Whether we use it responsibly or unethically, it depends on our perspective. Some people, some country treat marketing using spam is acceptable. Some country, like in China, it is considered unacceptable. So again, these depend on each nation rules and guideline in using information system. By that, I will stop this chapter on ethical and social issues information system. I hope it has been beneficial for you to understand this very last chapter on this management information course. And I would like to thanks for your attention. Thank you again.